Hi, this is Todd Christensen with MoneyFit by DRS. I so appreciate Garish for inviting me on to the Back to Basics show. Please subscribe and keep on listening. And remember, everything in life is going back to basics.
Hi, my name is Julie Wald. Thank you so much to Back to Basics for having me over. Don't forget to subscribe and to listen, and remember that everything in life is going back to basics.
Hello, everyone. This is Back to Basics, and my name is Girish Bali, the host for Back to Basics. We are live, and I do apologize for the delay. We had some technical difficulties, but you know what? We're here. We are going to be chit-chatting with our guest today, and we're going to have an awesome time. So whoever's online, thank you again for coming here, and I do apologize again for coming late. There is a hotline number that you guys are going to be calling, and the number is 513-YO-B2B1. That's 513-YO-B2B1. And the reason why is B2B1 is because Back to Basics is always number one, according to me, that is. Now, you can always call or you can text, and you please be mindful when you're calling and asking the right questions to the guest, because I don't want to be, being rude to her also. And please, if you have any questions for Back to Basics, do call me. So thank you again for coming here for Back to Basics. And we're going to start in a few seconds of the show, and we're going to chit-chat with our guest today. So thank you again, guys, for coming on Back to Basics. We will be chatting with our guest today, and we're going to talk about community. How do we break community? How do we bring the community together? That's the key. Now, the thing is, we have a tendency to break the community. And we don't do it really by thinking. It just happens, right? There's some few things that I'll be asking this guest of mine, and I've talked to her many times on a different platform, and we just became friends offline, and then we're chit-chatting, and then we became a good friend, right? And now she's here on my show to be a better friend. And we're going to share each other's feelings and the thought processes when it comes to community. So how are you? And thanks for coming to Back to Basics, Grace, for definitely an honor for you to be here on the show.
It really is an honor for me to be on your show. Thank you so much, Girish, for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you again for here. Guys, thank you again, all whoever's online. And if you are seeing me, Gaurav is there, Doug is there. Thank you again. And if I think he said that the blank screen is there, so can you give me a high five that it's not, because I think we started late. That's why. So thank you again for that. Grace, before we start the show and me asking you questions, and it's going to be a great show, by the way. What does Back to Basic mean to you, Grace?
Well, we talked about this just a moment ago. It means coming back into who we are destined to be, to be good human beings, to be kind and loving all over again. It's what we've forgotten in this day and age of just being busy, of doing.
Yeah, I mean, it's as simple as that, isn't it, Grace? I mean, sometimes we overthink ourselves, and it's really a simple answer, isn't it? So thank you again, Grace, for coming here, and thank you again for definitely a privilege. And, I just want to mention, when I asked you a question, what does Back to Basic mean to you on the calendar, can I read that to you if you don't mind?
I'd love that.
Sure. What you said is Back to Basic means coming back into who we are destined to be as kind and loving human beings. And I think that's what you said too, in a different language, in different ways, but pretty much it's the same definition. So thank you again. Now, what does community mean to you?
Community means all of us together as one. Community is just as global as we want it to be, and it can also be as individualistic as we want it to be as well. If we recognize that the community consists of individuals, then we can see the importance of the strength of the one. If there's one that's weak, we're all weak. And in order for us to be a whole community, we have to uplift each and every single person within our community. It takes a village to raise a child. And when we start talking about community, we need to look at where our weakest link is. You know,
Yeah.
where is it that we need to look at? We need to look at places that we really don't want to talk about. We don't want to talk about the homeless. And let's start there. So we've got the homeless people. We've got people that are incarcerated. We've got people that are in addiction, you know, and we've got people in domestic violence shelters. These are the places that are probably make a good 7 to 8% of our population in our communities. But though that small percentage makes the biggest impact in our community. And if we look at it from a global scale, in the world, right? It's huge. Yet let's take a look at pets. We all love pets, right? We have so many pet stores now. We're allowed to bring our dogs and animals into restaurants sometimes. Yet, you know, we also leave bowls of water and food for the strays. Yet we can't seem to do that for our own human brothers and sisters that are homeless, that are in real need. You know, what happened to that? What happened to where we have valued our humanity less than other things around us?
But Grace, let me ask you this, and it's going to be an ugly question, and it needs to be said because I think people are all thinking this, right? You know, we have different race, and we have different genders, we have different nationalities, we have different age groups, we have different countries, right? Now, they have their own community too,
That's
right?
right.
So, is that okay to have that, or is that more division? Because I thought the community means that we're supposed to bring everyone together, right? So,
Yes.
what are your thoughts on that part?
I love that you bring this up because that's what makes let's talk about our country first. That's what makes our country so beautiful. We've got all these different types of languages, cultures, most especially values are different, right? But we all seem to come together in America. Why? Because we all love the value of freedom and choice. Choice is what makes it so beautiful. And if we can focus on the things that we all have in common instead of the things that make us different, then we can keep our community whole and be able to respect the differences in us. We all have our pathways. We all have value in our community, each and every single one of us. We all can learn from each other. And I would love to learn more about how that person cooks that dish. What is it so wrong to see somebody in a different light? Okay, who cares what color skin you are? You're human. You just happen to be wrapped in that. It's like a crayon box. They all have different colors, but they all do the same. They color beautifully in different ways. But coming together, you make art. That's why art is so beautiful. It's so different. Everything is different. Every color is different, but there's not one color that is more or less valuable than the other.
You know, Grace, thank you again for answering that question. Let me ask you this here. It might be an ugly question, right? Because and I'm going to say it again. You know, throughout the this whole interview, there are going to be some few questions which will be hurtful or sensitive. So please be mindful of that because it needs to be talked out. Honestly, you know, we have a tendency to not learn other communities for whatever reason, right? So that's where that hatred comes in. So how do we not make that hate into love, into caring? I mean, what are your thoughts on that part?
In terms of what's happening really in what you're talking about, what I'm hearing you say, is there's this huge divide, right?
Mm,
Huge divide. Again, if we concentrate on the beauty of that culture,
mm,
we won't have the divide anymore. If we are open to things that we don't already know, that we don't really understand, that we think we understand but don't.
mm,
There's a difference between knowledge and knowing. Knowledge is the things that we learn through books, through videos and podcasts like yours. Knowing is experiencing that with which we're talking about. So
mm,
until we are knowing, until we are actually experiencing it, we will not really be fruitful in the knowledge that we've received. We have done it a disservice in just learning about it and not living it. We
mm,
talk about love a lot, and a lot of scientists don't even like to go there much, really. Not, I'm talking about spirituality and religion now, because that's the
mm,
foundation of love.
mm,
Everybody has their own experience with that.
mm,
Um, Much of it, to be honest with you, is a lack of communication, a lack of open communication in our community. It's the sitting down and saying, all right, that was not my experience, but please share with me what your experience is so I can try to find a way that we can connect.
mm,
When somebody tells their story, for me, I like to see where it is that I can understand first. That way I feel this connection. It's just like a marriage, really.
mm,
You say you love that person you're with, find ways to uplift them rather than to tear them down, maybe with things that we don't already know.
mm, mm.
It's really that simple. It really is.
No, 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 it really is. Grace, thank you again. The thing is, um, there are um, there are communities out there that we don't want to talk about, which is totally fine because that's everyone's prerogative, right? But do you think that we are coming to a point that there are different generations that we're thinking, right? Because the young generations, I don't think they care. And I think now I'm talking about the older generation versus the new ones, right? And I think you and I are in one of those age groups that we care because we're in a fix between the two generations. Do you think we need to have one more generation that we won't have this problem anymore? What are your thoughts on that part?
I believe that we are on the road to eradicating some of the stigmas that we have in today's society for the next several generations to come. I believe that the new generation is learning that a lot of the things that we and our elder generations have done in the past is no longer working today.
Hmm,
If we keep looking at the past and trying to learn from that, we're going to continue to keep doing what we're doing, and it's not working.
hmm,
What I like about the younger generation is they are much more open-minded about the things that we have restricted upon
hmm,
ourselves based on a society.
hmm,
But we also have something to offer the newer generation that they don't have, and that is wisdom. Wisdom comes with much experience, and a lot of that deals with age. I'm not saying that all the oldest ones have the most wisdom, but they do have more than the younger generation do because of that knowing, because of the experience of life that nothing in this world can teach except for experience itself.
But Grace,
So,
I want to be clear. I don't want everyone to think that we're saying the elder crowd and the old generation is bad. I mean,
no,
this is
not
what
at all.
this is what they were taught.
Yep.
So it's not anything wrong, guys. So you have to understand that. It's just we just have to think in a different way now. So we have to unlearn what we have learned before and then relearn again. Am I right on that, Grace? What are your
Yes,
thoughts on that?
without a doubt, without a doubt. And I believe it stemmed from early on. I'm going to be talking about America. Okay. I don't know where everybody else is coming from, but I'm talking about our country here. Part of it is the lie that we were taught in school. Let's take a simple thing as the food pyramid. That's a totally erroneous mode of eating. And when you start from that, what more can we see that was not even taught to us? There are a lot of things that we weren't taught about that I started learning later on in life.
Hmm.
And if we get started on that, then we can see that our society was built upon a lot of lies.
Hmm.
You know, a lot of things that nobody wants to talk about because they're afraid of losing their job, because they're afraid of losing their friends, because of what they feel in here and then see out there.
Hmm.
A lot of the things, for instance, medicine and drugs, the two words. I love communication. Girish, I know you do as well.
Hmm.
Communication is what is lost in our society today.
Hmm.
You
But
know,
then, Grace, you bring up a great point, and maybe it's related, not related, but it just came in my head. Is that if you remember a couple of years back, maybe a year back, maybe a couple of years back, they're removing certain things from the history books, right? So they're rewriting it again. Do you agree or disagree with that? Because I think we should know what the history was. I mean, regardless of how we're hurting people or not, right? Because that's what we grew up with. Don't you think that we should rewrite it again into, let's say, a second edition instead of re-erasing that old one? I mean, what are your thoughts on that part?
I like that. You know, I was running for school board up until April of this year.
Hmm.
And there was I'm just trying to relate this story here. There was a big stink about changing names of schools. And I started looking around. I live in a beautiful state. I live about 45 minutes away from the oldest city of our country, St. Augustine. And what I noticed was they didn't try to erase things. What they did was they put notes, you know, placards on buildings and around it to show you what the story is of that. What I believe is wrong in the books of history anyways is, number one, it was written by man. Number two, who was it that wrote it? Because based upon that person's biases and prejudices, that's exactly what the books are going to be written by and of. So already we're talking about editing and by one person. Now, you know, facts do not make truth. Facts can be manipulated into any way, shape, or form one chooses to. And when we continue to keep editing and editing and editing, then the truth gets lost. It gets lost. One of the things that I find, and as a holistic wellness consultant, is that the truth is made up of many different truths, right? Your truth in your life is different from my truth in my life, but that
Hmm.
doesn't make your truth any less valid than mine is. But if
Hmm.
we put all those perspectives together and I open up to see what it is that you're doing that I'm not, and make that part of mine and all the way around our community, how beautiful our world would be today.
Hmm.
You know, the only people that win in war are nobody.
Hmm.
Nobody at all. Because what we're doing when somebody says we won is we're celebrating death. Who does that?
Hmm.
Who does that to make oneself feel better about what they just accomplished?
Hmm.
How is that right? You know? And choice is what's really important. And so any banning of any sort, whether it's bad banning, you know, banning something what we think is bad, is closing the doors to the potentiality of what could be and
Hmm.
what must be. We can learn from the bad, right? For me, there's no good or bad really. It's what works for you. If
Hmm.
I'm saying it's bad, if you choose this way of living, I'm judgmental.
Hmm.
That's your path, not mine.
Hmm.
And who am I to tell you what to choose? If it
Hmm.
works for you, it works for you. That doesn't
Hmm.
necessarily mean it's going to work for that person or the
That's
next,
right.
but it
All,
might work for me if I try it.
I mean, all what we can do, and you and I can do, is to give information, and now it's up to you that if you want to decide if it is good, bad, or ugly, right? I mean, that's just how it is.
That's right.
Uh, well, someone just said that bad guys are really good ones. So, so thank you again for that. And whoever is online, if you want, you can call us at 513-900-2221, which is 513 yo B2B1, or you can call for a minute, or you can text us whatever questions you have between both of us, right? So thank you again for that. Now, uh, before we go further, Grace, I mean, can we explain who you are and what you do? I mean, you kind of explain what you do, but there's a lot more that people don't know who you are. Can we explain that if you don't mind?
Sure. I'm Grace De La Rosa, holistic wellness consultant, and I speak on all things related to the body, mind, and soul. That's everything from, science, 5G effects, to diet, to fitness, all the way to talking about what we're talking about now, community, and most importantly, spirituality. Spirituality is the foundation to being human all over again. It doesn't mean that you have to believe in a God or anything of that nature. For me, I like to call that beautiful force God anyways. You
Mm,
know, um, God to me, if you have an issue with the word God, use the word love in that place, because that's what it is. God
mm,
is love. It's the process of love unfolding, and realize the intricate value, the important value of each and every living thing and non-living thing as well. Um, so what I like to do is I like to work with people that have challenges in their lives, and also the people that are searching for much more than what they are believing is all there is in life.
mm.
There
Yeah,
comes a time in our life when it's much more than just the superficiality of the way we live.
mm,
I'm not saying that that's any less important, but to come from within is the most important thing, because once we leave this earth, we have nothing but what we bring with us in our heart. That's
mm,
what resides in us, and that's what we will take with us when we transmute into the next form of life.
mm. Yeah,
Um,
Grace, thank you again. And I want everyone to know that yes, their religion is definitely important in everyone's life, right? But there are certain people who don't believe in religion, which is totally fine, also. But the thing is that there's one thing that we all agree, that we live on this earth and we have this big population out there, right? So how do we make that in a in a kind way, in a human way, in a human being way, right? And this is what we're talking about. We're talking about communities,
yes.
bringing things together, regardless of what religion, what race, and what location you're in, and what sexuality is there. Honestly, because that's just what it is, right, Grace? I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
It is. I think the most important thing again is communication.
Yeah.
We have a lack of it right now, and to stay open. Communication is, for me, and I am a mindfulness coach. It's another part of what I do. I do quite a bit,
Mm,
Garish, as you know. Mindfulness is really at the helm of my business, Living with Grace. And it's all about mindful communications in the
mm,
way we think, the way we speak, the way we feel, and the way we behave. If our thoughts are not of love, our actions will not be as well. Think about when you were little. Let's all do that. Let's do a homework here. Think
mm,
about when you were little,
mm,
about the first time you felt sad,
mm,
about the first time you felt a sense of loneliness and a lack of being understood by the adults, because, I don't know about you, but the adults kind of ruled the world, right? When
mm,
you're little, you don't get really heard. Your
mm,
thoughts and feelings can't really be expressed because your vocabulary isn't big enough to tell
mm,
anybody what you feel.
mm,
Think about this. Think about how you felt when your parents uplifted you, when they believed in you, when they
mm,
said, wow, you did such a great job. Good
mm,
job. Or when you felt like um, you didn't live up to your parents' standards,
mm,
you know?
mm,
So when we talk to somebody, what can we do to uplift that person? You don't know what they just went through.
mm,
What can we do to uplift that person rather than to knock them down?
mm,
Right now, everybody's so busy with what they're doing that they're forgetting the people that are right in front of them. And it colors their world. It colors the other people's world.
mm,
Girish, if you found out that your child was in a car accident right now, how
mm,
does that color your world?
mm,
How will you be talking to me? Will you be talking to me angrily because you want to get off now and you got to go?
mm,
You see how it affects right away the
mm,
next conversation you have with the next person. So for business owners, I was just talking about this the other day on a video that I did. If you're as a CEO of the company, or you're as a president, you have many stresses coming along, but you can only talk about one thing. When you have an employee coming to you, you've got to set all of that aside, right? Hear, not only hear, but listen to the employee. What are they talking to you about? What are you not going to be taking with you that you just heard a second ago, so that you can uplift this employee? That employee might be complaining about something, but that's the answer. That's the answer to the problem. Listen to what they're saying. Listen to what they're asking, and find a beautiful way to uplift them. That's that child that's trying to please you, but is now able to communicate and effectuate to you what it is that they're seeing needs to be improved upon. If we can do that with all of our leaders here in our country, in our community, what a beautiful place this could be. Right now, it's all about lining people's pockets. And, capitalism is a beautiful thing, but we have forgotten the value of the system. It's not all about making money. It's also about uplifting and remembering to provide a service to the community. What is it that they need? What is it we can provide? And what is it that we can do together as a team? Not just to manipulate so that that person gives us what we want, but what can we give to them in return to lift them up and not to tear them down, not to make them sicker than what they already are,
Yeah, Grace, thank you again, and thank you for explaining that, because you know what, I don't know, I felt a lot from that, and you and I have talked about this offline many times in different platforms. So thank you again for that. There's some few things that I've found that it makes a community, right? And you can tell me if I'm wrong or not, but there are 6 things, which is pay it forward, be a volunteer, care for elderlies in the community, donate, become a mentor. I mean, you don't have to be a leader. You can be a mentor even for a kid, a teenager. Okay, so keep that in mind too. And then, of course, definitely, I mean, the community that we live in, we need to make sure that it's clean, right? So I think these are the 5, 6 things that I have mentioned. And do you agree with these points? What are your thoughts on that part?
Without a doubt, I agree with you 100% on this. And let's go back to the elderly again, okay? One of the things that I've been realizing over the years, I come from a military background. My dad was in the Navy, and then my former spouse was a strike fighter pilot in the military. And so the military has been my entire life. It runs in through my blood. And what I've learned is, especially men, we were raised to keep a stiff upper lip, to be dependent on ourselves and nobody else. So it's the hardest part is asking for help. We're taught not to mix emotions with business. And that's where I'd like for many of us to reconsider the fact that if we look back in the past, everything was all business, right? Now what we need to do is mix business with what's in our heart. If we do what's in our heart, the success will follow financially and superficially in any way, shape, or form you wish to do. What is success anyways? For me, Earl Nightingale said it really, really well. Success is the progressive realization of a worthy ideal. Success is the progression of a worthy ideal, the realization of a worthy ideal. It's doing the next right thing. Again, one of the things that I've also noticed about the elderly, here's what I'll hear. What do I have to worry about that? I'm not going to be here when that happens, but that's the problem. If you don't start worrying about it now, what's going to happen to the next generation is going to be worse than what we're dealing with today. And what we're dealing with today, for all intents and purposes, is censorship and suppression. Instead of really making somebody feel better or get better, especially in the medical health field, we tend to call diseases and illnesses, or I'm sorry, let me backtrack, drugs and medicine. Today, what I'm realizing is the medicine is the thing that's getting us sicker and sicker every day. And the drugs are the things that we were taught to not look at, when in fact, a lot of the drugs are actually Mother Nature's way of healing us completely. Nobody wants to talk about that right now. Why? Because they have jobs to uphold, they have families to take care of, and a lot of doctors are unable to speak out loud exactly what they wish they could. I'm a colon cancer survivor. It took me a long time to realize, wait a minute, I've been eating well 80% of the time and still I got colon cancer. There's something wrong. But if we look at what really is going on, if our grounds are tainted and our water are tainted, what do you think everything else is tainted? Our fish is tainted. The food, the meat that we eat is tainted. When they eat the tainted stuff with pesticides and things of that nature, we're eating that. We are eating exactly what's going down the drain and in the commode. You're going to clean your commode with Lysol. Guess what your fish is going to have? Lysol in it. Whatever it is, everything matters. That's why people try to keep us divided. But in fact, one thing is connected to everything. We're humans. We come from nothing, but in all actuality, science shows we are made of stars. How did that stardust get into us? You know, it's the same way as how did the fish get sick? How do the fish today have 3 heads and we're wanting to eat that? And by the way, if we say we're pro-life, you know, everybody is pro-life. We're all about living and living a good life and all of that, but yet we're doing what we're doing to our world.
Yeah, Grace, thank you again for explaining that, and thank you again for all the nuggets and what you do and everything else. But before you leave today, you actually gave me a big lump in my throat there. So thank you again for that. Uh, so let me see here. I think someone was saying, let's see what they said here. Misleading society for personal wealth is a nature of trader, in my view. What are your thoughts on that part?
So deep, so strong with that, just that one sentence, you know. And here's an even shorter sentence that makes the biggest impact. No, no more. N-O, no. A very, very simple word and an entire sentence in and of itself. Start saying no to the things that you know are not worthy. They're not feeding our society in the right way. You know, again, I say there's no wrong and right, but it's better. What can we do better? You know, again, what's right for you may not be right for me, but if it's working for you, I don't want to keep that from you. I don't want to keep that from you. I'm here to support you. What can I do to make you better? That's where this world needs to come. What can we do to make better in the incarceration, the people incarcerated? We treat incarcerated people less than even the pets that we have, you know, for shame. And then we expect these people incarcerated to come out and be a part of our society when what we did was treat them even wrong, more wrong than ever. Look, yes, they're in there because they need to be, they need to have a timeout on the things and learn what it is that they did wrong according to the laws. But if we're talking about pro-life again, living life well, what can we do to make that person better so when they come out, they can actually provide value to our society? If that was our child in timeout, what can we do to that child so that not only do we not have to put that child in timeout anymore, but that that child can learn from that and say, I don't want to do that anymore, mommy or daddy. Show me what I can do to do better. So when I come out of timeout, I will be accepted again. What can we do to make those people in jail acceptable for us to communicate and do better? What about the people in mental health facilities? Same thing. What can we do to uplift them? Number one, we can erase the labels that we placed upon them. People with ADHD, they're geniuses. People with autism, all they do is just process their thoughts differently than the norm. And what if the norm is sick? Do we want to be like the norm? That's like taking a beehive and killing the queen when the entire hive is sick.
It's sick, right?
So what can we do instead of looking at the person in jail as someone despicable? If we really believe in pro-life, and many of us are Christians there, what can we do? Take the plank out of our own eye first and realize nobody is perfect. Nobody is perfect. So what can we do to make them a little bit better? First and foremost is to treat them with respect, no matter what. We talk about pro-life again. Let's say this. Why is it then that so many believe in capital punishment? What is it? What about the innocent people in there that die? There's a small percentage, but you know what? We're talking about inclusivity, and we're talking about all. That 1% of people that are innocent that are being killed, they matter. What if that was your child there, and you know without a doubt that your child was framed and now is getting ready to die? Are you going to say you're for capital punishment now? I don't think so. Not in the least bit. And if we think of them as our children, as people that need a little bit of support, yes, there are bad people there, people that have committed crimes, but do they need to die? For me, I would rather see them in jail thinking about this until they die naturally than to give them that help and get them out of their misery when they've killed somebody. Fighting fire with fire does not work anymore. It doesn't.
Yeah, I actually thank you again, Grace, for that. And before we leave today, right? I saw something on TV a few days back. It was a TV show, obviously, and that TV show it's a hospital show, and they're supposed to save lives, right, as they always do. One of the patients was a sex offender. Now the doctor said, should I just let him be, or should I fix him, right? And the answer that he got, and he talked to himself, is, I think I should fix him, because that's what we are made to do. If he did a crime, he should go to jail and just do his justice. I mean, that's just what it is, right? We have tough choices in our lives, and make the right one for you, for everyone, just to make the community better. So, Grace, thank you again for sharing those tidbits, and I totally love what you do and what you are all about. And you and I have been friends since the other platform that you and I chatted. And you know a little secret about me, which you're not going to reveal today.
No.
But you and I have been great friends even offline and right before this phone call too. So thank you again for Grace for being here. But before you leave, do you have any last words to all my viewers and my listeners? And how is your journey on Back to Basics too? On top of that,
Thank you. Thank you. Let me talk about the journey back to basics. Again, back to basics is coming right back here, remembering who we are meant to be. Mindfulness is important. Go to my website, which is still being worked on. I'm still working on that myself. But what I'd like to also share is what I'd like to provide for companies that are out there is for me to consult with them and to see where I can help make their workflow a little bit more smoother than what it already is, to be able to open up that communication gap between you and your team leaders. When you talked about mentorship, mentors are indeed leaders, right? Leaders are people that allow people to follow a path that they have cleared for them because they've already done it. It's a navigator of sorts. Imagine if we had a navigator in our life to tell us, oh, I've been there, done that. Let me show you what I've done. Maybe you can find something that might work better for you. That's the stuff I want to do. Also, mindfulness is meditation. Meditation actually heals the brain. If we had a record, remember the old LPs, Girish, with the grooves in there? Meditation actually resurfaces the brain. So those regular grooves are the behaviors and the thoughts that we have on a day-to-day basis. But every time we get traumatized, even with something just as mundane as being yelled at, those grooves get deeper and deeper. And if you're military, you can understand this even better. That deeper groove becomes a foxhole so deep that you can no longer hop out of it. That would be the triggers. The triggers will leave you caught in that foxhole and will be very difficult for you to get out. Meditation fills those grooves and allows neurogenesis to transpire, which means your brain actually regenerates new neurons, new brain cells, and it actually helps prevent dementia. This is also works with focusing at work, with understanding that you can't get into yourself and allow something else to cause you to react. Rather, as adults, as we mature, we start learning to calm down and to respond in kind always. And remembering that kindness does not mean weakness. Sharing our truth is very important, and the most important part of all of being human, with all of the traumas and the heartaches that we've ever gone through in our lives, is to take that and make it work for us by sharing it with somebody else that might be going through the exact same thing that you've gone through, but is afraid to talk about it until the leader is here to say, I've been there, and shares their story open-heartedly with much vulnerability. And you will see the most beautiful thing transpire between you and your employee. You become one. You now are on the same team. And instead of forgetting or remembering that there is this hierarchy, yes, there is that. But you know what? When you come together like this, there's no other place like it. There's no other place like it, because then you go together. You lift each other up out of that hole, so to speak, and find the mission to be your solid ground, to be back to basics, getting back to the basics of living life and connecting with the next human being in front of you and realizing you are no better than they are. You might know a little bit more, but they might know something that you don't. So never, ever, ever think that you know it all, ever. There's always some value that the next person has that might make you even a more better human being. Getting back to the basics is remembering who you are meant to be and who you are becoming today. Kind, loving, giving, supportive to our community, opening up and realizing it isn't about the money. It isn't about the money anymore. We've got tons of it in this country. And what for? To feel the way we are today? Yeah, no, it doesn't work.
Grace, thank you again for all the sharing nuggets that you have shared, and the last word you have given, and you really gave me goosebumps on my arms here. So thank you again for coming here and sharing all your nuggets there.
Thank you so much.
Hopefully, we'll thank you again. Thank you. So, guys, we spoke with Grace today, and we talked about community, didn't we? Right? If you remember, community with the UNITY, right? Because we're trying to unite ourselves into one big happy family. Now, yes, there are sensitive things that we talked about today, but it's so needed. We need to start talking to each other out. We need to think in a different way, help each other out, make a better place to live. I mean, you want your kids to be in a better place. You want yourself to be in a better place. And definitely, obviously, the people behind you, what they have taught us, we got to bring it forward. And that's just what it is. Now, as usual, as always, there is a quote of the day from Back to Basics. And hopefully my guest will like this quote. And the quote is, "There's no power for change greater than a community discovery what it cares about." Now, guys, as usual, as always, what do we always say at the end of the episode? Everything in life goes back to basics, and that's what we did today, guys. Guys, take care. God bless. Remember, we are very close, and we are closing the season 2, that is. And we're very grateful for all the love and support that I'm getting from all you people, including my guest. Now, in season 3, I'm going to give you a snippet. We will be coming out with a new podcast called Back to Basic Wisdom. And that wisdom is going to have all motivating speakers, great speakers. And with your love and support, that is possible. So we have a total of 4 podcasts altogether. And Back to Basics is going to be dividing ourselves into 4 different slices. And then keep on watching us, keep on viewing us, and you will see all what other 4 podcasts are out there. Now, as usual, as always, thank you again all for coming here. Please do subscribe to all the stuff. Please comment and rate because it does help me in the long run. Now, usual, thank you again, guys, for being here. And usual, here's one thing I do want to say, guys. So next week we will be going live with another guest of mine, and we're going to talk about the energy of nutrition, and that's what Back to Basics is. We're giving you a variety of thing bits before we close for season 2. So, guys, take care. God bless. Keep on subscribing. Enjoy Back to Basics. We are here to stay. We're not going anywhere. Season 3 is going to be the biggest bomb ever, even better than what season 2 was. Thank you again. Take care. God bless. See you next time on Back to Basics. Just